I'll be tying the RiverKeeper Soft Hackle Cripple today. For your instructions to the fly pattern sheet, you can find that below, a link to my RiverKeeper Flies website. And first I want to show you the live insects we're trying to emulate. This image is of some mayflies that are caught in an eddy. And you notice how the wings are laying flat on the water surface. And that's what this fly is trying to imitate. This next image shows a live insect. I happened to catch it on my fly, just dipped it down into the eddy. And you'll notice that the wing and the color and the size of the fly that I'll be tying are very close. And that's the profile we're trying to make. Let me put a hook into the vise. The hook I'll be using today is a soft hackle Alex Jackson trout fly hook. It's a size 11 and it's similar to a size 14. You can use any dry fly hook. I just happen to like the looks of the Alex Jackson hook. And I don't understand why the size 11 equals a size 14, but it just does. The thread I'm using is a light Cahill in a uni, an 8/0. It's a waxed thread, which I'll explain why that's important when I tie on the wing. I'll go down about halfway and trim the thread. The dubbing for the body will be super fine, pale morning dun. I don't use a lot of dubbing on this. So as you dub, just go one direction. We'll create a slim amount of material on the thread. Before I go back any farther, I'm going to go to a point about halfway between the hook point and the barb. And I have bare thread here. That's intentional because my technique, I continue back and I will go to the tie-in point, or the body where it starts right about there. And that's where my first turn of dubbed body is. Before, years ago, I would go all the way to the back and then apply my dubbing to the thread and start to wrap. And I would have multiple wraps of thread, which creates extra bulk at the end of the body, which does not look natural. It ends up being too big. We'll go forward with touching turns about to a point of 2 eye lengths behind the eye of the hook, and then go back with a little bit of a spiral, and then forward, and that will create the taper, the desired taper that I'm trying to achieve with this fly. In the thorax area, I'll use some crinkled Ceylon. This is medium dun. And the color, I just match to the color of the wing I'm trying. So for a March brown, I'll use more of a brown color, but for most of the mayflies that I use, either a PMD or blue wing olive, it'll end up being a dun color of some sort. This is the crinkled Ceylon. We'll just kind of roll it together, roll some of those fibers, and we'll trim. Try to get those pretty flat, and I'll make a loose wrap using a pinch wrap, a second wrap, and then pull the fibers back. And that way I don't have to go in and trim the material. For the length, I want it half the body length, but I don't want to pull too tight. If I pull tight and trim, that will bounce back and it won't be long enough. So just let it hang loose there on top, and we'll just trim it about half the body length. For the wing, I'll go back to the image This is a mallard wing, and on the leading edge, you'll notice where the bobbin holder is, it's pointing to the covert feathers. The small ones at the very edge are what I'm using. This is one that's I've prepped a little bit. It's too large for this fly, but it'll show you. I've pulled off the fibers here, and then to prep it, I just use my hackle pliers and pull the fibers back like that. So I'll use an appropriate sized feather now. Pull those fibers backwards. Now I'll trim this over the wastebasket. So I have just a tab left. That's my tie-in point. You can choose, if you so do, or if you'd like to, you can just go ahead and tie it in and then come back and trim it. But the practice I've used lately is to trim them before I put them on the hook, and then I don't have to go back and try to trim close. Now the difficulty with fly, especially of this fly, especially for smaller versions, is this next step. And I mentioned earlier having waxed thread. The waxed thread will hold that tab a lot more secure. And so my technique here is to fold the feather forward. That kind of breaks the stem a little bit. I bring it upright, moisten my fingers, pull the fibers back, and then release the tension and squeeze at the same time. If you don't release the tension, you have a tendency to pull the feather out of the thread. If I release it, you'll notice that those fibers are now pointing backwards. I'll start to wind forward, and you want to make a soft wrap and continue to fold those fibers back. Take one wrap directly in front of the next, and continue to work with those fibers. And now I'll place a thread wrap and pull tight. You can release the hackle pliers, and as long as you keep tension, it's not going to go anywhere. I'll make a few wraps to secure the wing and come back and trim that hackle. I'll flatten my thread, and I'll make a nice neat head. I'll go back a little bit onto the stem, which will protect it from the fish's tooth. And you'll notice I've got twists in my thread, so I'm going to unwind that, try to make that thread flat, and I'll make a 5-turn whip finish. Tighten it, and then just use the scissors and pull on the thread, and that will cut it really close. So there's the PMD version of a RiverKeeper Soft Hackle Cripple. Here's a few others. I mentioned the March Brown version. You'll notice I've used a Hungarian partridge feather here. And these are from, if you look at this fly compared to a normal soft hackle, these would be over hackled, too much hackle. But this is being fished as a dry fly, dead drift on top of the water. Here is a blue wing olive version of the same fly. It's about an 18 or a 20. Again, it's the same style, a little bit over hackled, and it will emulate that wing laying in the water. Lastly, this is put it in my hackle pliers. This is a green drake version. And you notice I've put a rib on this one. Most of the time I just use a dub body. Sometimes I will put a rib on for the larger flies, and I have been known to use a biot, but most of the time just a simple dub body will work. So I hope you've liked this. Please like and subscribe to my RiverKeeper Fly YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.